Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the King, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day, staying healthy and safe. Today, we are talking about one change to every killer that we would make. We made this video about 5 months ago, and we got this idea from Bricky a very long time ago. Since then, a lot of things have changed, and a lot of different things have been introduced into the game. Some of the characters have been changed. Now the maps are getting changed. There's a lot of different aspects of the game that has been changed since 5 months ago, almost half a year ago. So we're going to revisit this idea, talk about some changes, one in particular that we would make to every single killer, and then justify why we would make this change. Before we jump on into this video, today is day 22 out of 30 of our partner push on Twitch. We are in the final stretch. If you guys haven't already come out to our Twitch before, please do. As I said, we're on our partner push, and just one extra viewer would mean the world to me. Anyways, guys, we are going to talk about one change for every single killer, as I did mention, and we're going to start off today talking about the Trapper. You guys know me, I'm a Trapper main, absolutely love the Trapper, so I have a lot of input on him, but I'm going to try to save it so I don't go on a tangent and speak about the Trapper for an hour. If I only had to make one change to the Trapper, it'd simply be just give him one extra trap base. Have a trapper bag as base. Start off with 2 traps, and that's pretty much it. This would help so much with pressure in the sense that you can place a trap down. By the time you get to another trap, pick it up and justify and continue doing what you're doing. Now, if you don't want to go ahead and do that, there's also other things you can do. You can create variations to Bloody Coil. I've mentioned this multiple times in the past, and I think it would be a beautiful addition to the Trapper, having add-ons that are a lower version of Bloody Coil, meaning there would be a 50% chance of getting injured when disarming a trap, 25%, or even have it to like 15% base. So every time someone does disarm his trap on the base kit itself, you will get injured at a 50% chance. I think that's a great idea to make his power more viable, because they finally got rid of the concept of sabotaging the Trapper's traps, which rendered them useless. Now, another part that a lot of people do is just disarm the traps, and realistically, if you disarm a trap wrong in real life, you could get injured, and it's quite hard to disarm a trap. You gotta be really quick with it. You've probably seen like one of those memes where the guy like pushes his hand in it. So it'd be pretty cool just to have a little bit, maybe 2 traps or just base having a chance of getting injured. I think it would work quite well. Moving on, we have the Wraith. The Wraith is one of those killers that are, you know, fairly balanced with the right perks and right add-ons, but we can still help this guy out a lot. And the thing that I think we should do is to make the Bone Clapper add-on base. This is one of my favorite add-ons to use in a game, as it really confuses a lot of the survivors. And recently we've seen killers like Freddy and the Huntress have their lullabies not being directional, and instead it is just everywhere. This can be on the base kit of the Wraith, and you can repurpose Bone Clapper to do something else. How amazing would that be? This would be just like the Huntress and Freddy, and everybody would be on edge. You don't really know where the Wraith is coming from, because as soon as you hear the ding dong, you know he's right there, right? And then you can just run away, use the sprint burst, dead, or whatever the case may be. If it is regional, you can combine this with so much things. True Talent has made a bunch of videos and talks about this so much on his streams, where using this combined with this Windstorm, this is actually his build right here, it just works out so beautifully, especially with nurses and everything like that. And it would make him so much more viable and expand his gameplay so much. Moving on, we have the Hillbilly. Now, the Hillbilly is quite strong, as I'm sure we're all aware of. So there's only one thing that I would do to the Hillbilly. If we take a look at the Hillbilly's add-ons, the guy doesn't really have any ultra rares. He only has 2 purples, and the add-ons are quite weird. And the only add-ons that people really use, I don't actually have one right here, is Carburetor Tuning Guide. And this pretty much does everything for the Hillbilly. This is his strongest add-on, and you can combine this with Thompson's Mix to have Insta-Resa, Primer Bulb to have Insta-Saw, even a Thompson's Mix, or not Thompson's Mix, Thompson's Moonshine, I'm sorry, to have like good turning on him. And that's pretty much all you need for him. He never got that 2020 overhaul when it comes down to his add-ons, and that's something that the Hillbilly desperately needs. You can make the Carburetor Tuning Guide an ultra rare, and I think people would be fine with that, because Billy is so strong, man. You can run Billy without add-ons and just do so good. And I think that's the only thing we would need to do to Billy. As I said, strong killer, not much in the sense of doing anything else to him besides maybe reworking his add-ons. The next is the nurse, and ever since the nurse rework, she's pretty much alright. You know, she has beautiful, fun add-ons. She's definitely more difficult to play, and it puts a way higher skill cap in her than people are used to. It really separates the really good nurse players from the mediocre or alright nurse players. And if you used to rely on some of her overpowered add-ons, you don't really do as good. Now, you can run the wheeze and I believe it is the respiration to make it similar to the old nurse, but not exactly the same, and this would help drastically. The only change that I would make is making respiration pretty much, I wouldn't say base, but a lower version of it base, where the duration of the fatigue is a little bit shorter. Not necessary, you don't really need to do it, as the nurse is quite good as is. But if that was a change, or we had to make a change, that's the change that I would pretty much make to her, because she's still the best. And if people argue otherwise, that the nurse is not the best, I don't know what to tell them. She absolutely demolishes everything survivors can do when it comes down to stealth, to looping, to pressure, everything. She has it all. If you play her right, you'll be the best killer there is. Of course, you can make compelling arguments with the Spirit, Billy, Oni, you know, and justify your case in that sense, but I still firmly believe the nurse is the best killer in the game. She doesn't tower over everybody else as she used to, but she's definitely still on a little bit of a pedestal. So we're going to move on to the Huntress. Now, Huntress, similar to Billy, doesn't really have two ultra rares. She doesn't really have anything that really fits the mold of what add-ons should look like in 2020, and I believe that the only changes that we should make are fixing her add-ons. Now, obviously, this is multiple changes, but you get what I mean. Fix her add-ons is a change that I would make. And first of all, we got to talk about Eerie Head. We've talked about Eerie Head so much. Eerie Head, it's quite simple. Make it so that if shots are above 10 or 15 meters, whichever your heart desires, that they would be one shot. That's all you need to do to Eerie Head. So long shots would be, you know, very taxing. Similar to the Death Slinger. Shoot someone 50 meters away, drag them in, they are exposed, they are dead. That's all I need to do with Eerie Head. Now you might be thinking, well, we need another ultra rare too to complement it, and I have the perfect add-on for you. Now, I don't know exactly how it would work, but maybe if you hook someone, or every time, you know, you reload once, you don't need to reload again. So there's a couple of different versions of this. Let me elaborate. One of them can be you start off with 10 hatchets. I know it's very excessive. I don't really like that concept, but it's something that I've heard a lot of people talking about. One of them could be for every time you hook someone, you automatically reload your hatchets. And another one can be every time you pull hatchets out the locker, once you toss all of them, you'll just get your 5 back, which is essentially the same thing as starting with 10 hatchets. Pretty cool, but then you would have to reload again, of course. And just a little ultra that you could give to her might be fun and interesting. I don't know. I'm just messing with ideas here. Obviously, that needs a lot of tweaks and things like that. But if we had to make a change to her, those are the changes that I would make. Meyers is next, and ever since Ghostface came out, Meyers has been a little bit weaker. He's just a little bit boring in my opinion. You know, Ghostface would be my go-to stocky boy if I had to pick someone to play. When it comes down to stocking, at least, I'm not really the biggest Meyers fan. I never was, and he just never really appealed to me. I find his gameplay pretty boring. It's very underwhelming, especially since you have another stocking character who's a bit more stronger. I think if you made it so that his tears gets updated pretty quicker, it would be quite nice for him, because when it comes down to it, the only add-ons that I use is the flower, and I believe I don't have the add-on. The other add-on, I believe it's a journal. And those are the two add-ons that I just typically run, and I think everybody realistically runs them. The other add-ons, some of them are kind of useless. Like, some of them just really doesn't do anything unless you're playing a specific Meyers build. Like all these mirrors, if you're playing a scratch mirror build, or like the tombstone pieces obviously are really strong, but nothing really else appeals to me. And I think the only two things that really go is the journal and the flower. So if people are consistently using that, it might be because, you know, that needs to be tweaked. And I think it would be quite nice if they looked into that and tweaked it. So next on the list is the Hag. And there's not much to do with Hag. She's in that very beautiful spot where she is very balanced. If you play her right, you'll do good. If you play her poorly, you won't do as good and amazing. But she's one of those killers that's definitely good. Some of her add-ons are kind of underwhelming. especially her ultra rare and the waterlogged shoe. There's not much you can do. You can honestly realistically swap out Rusty Shackles and make that to an ultra rare and just toss water shoe away. But there's not much I would change with her. Maybe just switching these two would be nice, or you can make it so, I don't know, she has a little bit bigger range to teleporting to her traps, but then again, there are add-ons to do that. Not much that I would do with Hag, in all honesty. Next up is the Doctor, and again, ever since his rework, Doctor has been quite well. Not much I would change with him either. They've done an amazing, phenomenal job. The only things that I would probably do is probably give his Static Blast a little bit more range. Sometimes it's a little bit short, and you can't get some of those hits off, and if someone runs straight into you, you kind of miss sometimes. That's the only change that I would realistically make to Doctor. They already did the changes that I would have proposed, which is your madness resets rather than like snapping out of it, then run, and then you could snap out of it. That's already been changed, so that would have been the change that I would have recommended, but they've already gone ahead and done that, so kind of threw me a curveball. Next on the list is Bubba, and Bubba is pretty much a copy and paste of Hillbilly. I'm sure we all know that. His add-ons are just, you know, the same as the Hillbilly. He has no ultra rares. Update his add-ons, give him 2 ultra rares, you know, make him a little bit more fun. He's one of the weaker killers in the game, probably the 3rd or 4th weakest in the game. Still viable because, you know, he does have a one-shot ability, but still underwhelming when it comes down to the red ranks. And I think if he had some better add-ons that weren't an identical copy and paste to the Hillbilly, it would be quite nice. What we could do is completely rework the Hillbilly's add-ons and just give Bubba all of the Hillbilly's add-ons. That could be a concept they could mess with, and I think would be quite nice. And it would make Bubba a little bit more fun and interesting to play rather than just face camping Bubba's every game, or carburetor tuning guide and engravings Bubba's, or beast marks I should say, that you see every game. That's how I play him, and those are the 2 add-ons that I typically run because nothing else really makes him as good as he should be. So that's what I think they should do for Bubba. Give him some more purples, give the guy some more pinks as well, rework him realistically, and he'll be pretty good. Freddy is, again, amazing. Every time they seem to do these reworks, they hit it out of the ballpark, you know? All of these reworks have been absolutely phenomenal. I haven't seen a rework that I haven't been like, wow, that's really good. The only 2 things that I would ever change with Freddy is, one, his lullaby not being directional, you know, well, being directional, I should say, and changing that to being non-directional, just like what they did to the Huntress, and they've already done that. And the other thing I would have changed with him was Forever Freddy, where it was, I believe, swing chains and red paintbrush. They also fixed that as well, so I wouldn't really change anything with Freddy. I tried thinking about it last night for about maybe 10-15 minutes, and I couldn't come up with anything that I could change to Freddy. If you really needed to buff Freddy, which you honestly don't, you could just make class photo base or a similar version to it. Maybe you pop up at 1 generator, so as you're teleporting to one, you see Freddy popping up and then he's not actually there. You don't need to do it, of course, because Freddy's the highest kill rate killer in the game currently, so you definitely don't need to do that. It brings me to a point as well. Let's say there's a killer in the game that is really weak. Think about it this way. If you give that killer their ultra rares as base, would it help them immensely, or would it just be a nice subtle patch? So for example, if you think about the Trapper, if you give him Bloody Coil base or Eerie Stone base, it wouldn't be as devastating as giving maybe the Huntress Eerie Head base. You know what I mean? So think about it that way. Oops, sorry, Mike. Think about it that way, where giving some of these killers their ultra rares to make it more viable. And if they become more viable and it's not very game breaking, those are the killers that need to be reworked and looked into. And if it becomes way too strong, those are the killers that need to have some adjustments and some changes and nerfs. That's the way I look at it sometimes, and it quite well works with all the killers. And if they don't have ultra rares, then obviously you need to give them some. Which brings us to the Piggy. And oh man, where do I begin with Piggy? I love the Piggy, I really do, but she needs some love. And going back to what I literally just said, if you give some of these killers their ultra rares, if they become viable and it's not as game breaking, do it. Rule set number 2. Don't know why that's not base kit yet. We've been asking for this for such a long time. And it's kind of a common sense thing at this point. Rule set number 2 definitely needs to be base. Just give Piggy a bunch of things base, man. Combat straps, the syringe, these are things that oh, that's not combat straps. These are things that should be based on Piggy, and I think it would make her so much more viable. And then for the add-ons that are here, you know, you can come up with different ultra rares. You can maybe give her something similar to the carburetor tuning guide, where it has multiple effects on one bear trap. Think about one having every single effect: blindness, exhaustion, and everything else that there is, hindrance, and like that. It would be interesting. I don't know what they would do. I didn't really think of an ultra rare, but rule set number 2 100% needs to be base. That's a change that I would make on Miss Piggy. The Clowny Boy is up next, and I like the clown. I do like the clown, but the problem with the clown is he is very add-on reliant. If you don't have add-ons on the clown, you will do bad. One change I would make, my god, please make his reload faster. The clown's reload is so slow. By the time you get someone, let's say you throw a bottle at them, by the time you finish shaking your bottle and reloading, it's pretty much wraps for you. You know, either the survivor is gone into the loop, so it forces you not to reload until they're hooked or downed. And by the time you do that, you're not using your power in the chase. And when you do get to use your power in the chase and you toss a bottle at someone, if it's an unsafe loop, you might catch up to them. But if it's a really safe loop, they could just run somewhere else, go to a window, or even get to the pallet in time. So make his reload faster. If you really wanted to make Clown really overpowered, there's 2 things you could have done. You could have made it so that his bottles have exhaustion base, which I think would be very boring on the survivor side, so they shouldn't do that, but an idea they can finish quick. And you can also make it so that, which I think is a very nice buff to Clown, make it so that if you want to keep the reload the same, the more bottles you toss at someone, the higher the movement speed penalty is. So toss 1 bottle, it's like what, 5%? Toss another and they get infected 10. Then make it so it has to be direct hits or something. Stack that on. So the more bottles, by the time you throw 5 bottles, they become slow, and that effect would last for until they get hit, or until, like, you know, 5 seconds or something like that, which is more than likely they will get hit. Just an idea, just a concept that I like with Mr. Clown. And yeah, let's move on to the Spirit. Again, she got reworked with some of her add-ons, specifically prayer beads, and you know, that's pretty much it, man. They gave her 2 things that I always wanted on her to make her a little bit better for playing against, and that was fixing prayer beads, which they have, and I'm very happy for that. And that was also making it so that she has a vault animation. They've also done that. So my changes to the Spirit are none. I have none. I don't really know what to do with Spirit. She's in a very nice position where she's very strong. You can still beat her, and that's pretty much it for Spirit. Yeah, let's go to someone that I thought of a long list for that needs so much reworks, unlike the Spirit. The Legion. Man, one change for the Legion is not goddamn enough. Holy crap. I rework Legion. That's my one change that I would do to Legion. Dead by Daylight has, since the get-go, never really hit the target with the Legion. They've tried and tried and tried. We've had reworks and changes and buffs and nerfs and everything to the Legion, and they never really hit the mark with the Legion. The current state at what the Legion is at, they're in a position where some people can make them viable, some people can't. But it's better than what it used to be, where it required no skill with Frank's mixtape and Deboon studies and just, you know, get people down quickly, right? People used to DC against the Legion like crazy. Now the Legion's in an alright spot. You can do good if you run the right add-ons, you play a good game. And I think they're going to leave them for now until they can properly identify a proper solution to them. And I think that's the only thing that we can do to make Legion viable, because Legion, hands down, is the worst killer in the game, right? So, that's pretty much it. Rework the Legion. Legion has become our new Freddy. Remember Freddy, old Freddy, that had to put people to sleep and then you hit them, and they just ended up reworking that Freddy instead of tweaking any of the numbers or anything like that, which they could have done and made it a little bit more viable and have him in a comfortable spot. Well, they've already taken those steps with Legion, putting them in a comfortable spot, and now it's time to completely rework them. All right, moving on from that mess, we have the Plague. Well, one mess to another with Vomit. Plague is you know, better now that base she has every time a gen is popped, the fountains go corrupt, which is beautiful for her. I'm very happy they incorporated that. That was my change that I made to her in our previous video, and they incorporated it into the game. However, people still refuse to cleanse, so the maximum you'll get is maybe 5, because those gens will be popping. You'll get 5 in total. If you run 2 apples, you'll get 7. Here's a change that I would make with Plague, and I think it's quite interesting. If no one cleanses, make it so that the sickness is more taxing over time. This would make her power much more viable. So maybe every 20 seconds, the sickness intensifies and your repair speed is lowered, right? So maybe you have a 15% action penalty speed. It forces you to cleanse. And then if you leave it for a very, very, very long time, you can't repair or heal or do anything. Think about the Doctor in Madness 3. If you don't want it like that, you could always make it so the more people that are infected, similar to Freddy's power, like a built-in Thanatophobia essentially, the slower everything gets for everybody. Now, that one, I don't really like that idea because everybody would just run it with Thanatophobia, get everybody injured, and that's just how it would be. But it is something they can look into, and I think that would definitely help the Plague a lot. But yeah, that's the change that I would make to the Plague, and I think it would definitely make her a little bit more viable. She needs some love. She needs some love. Ghostface is next on the list, and Ghostface is pretty fun. I do like Ghostface quite a lot. I told you he's a better Meyers earlier on, and I stand by that. Some of his add-ons are a bit meh, you know, like I realistically only run the Chewed Pen and the Night Vision. That's pretty much it. You know, besides that, Legion is pretty standard. The only thing that I would... Besides that, Ghostface is pretty alright, you know? The only subtle thing that I would change, and I think they are going to be changing this with this new update that's coming out on Tuesday, which I'm very happy for, is that they're going to make it so dedicated things look a bit better on both sides, so the latency is more accurately represented. Because what happens with Legion is a lot of times Legion is looking at someone and then they lose line of sight, and then the person kicks them out of their power and they're not even looking at you. And then it's on the flip side as well where the survivor's looking directly at Ghostface and they can't kick them out of their power. And this is because of the latency that's there. People not properly being identified on each other's screens. And because of this, what ends up happening is that you get kicked out of your power when someone's not looking at you and you're like, what the heck? Or if you're on the other side, you end up not being able to kick him out of his power. So that's the change that I would make with Ghostface. Next on the list is the Demogorgon. I love the Demogorgon boy. He's really fun to play. He's one of those killers that's, you know, fun with the right perks, right add-ons, pretty nice all around. One change I would make to him, make it so that his portals can be replaced at his will and not when the survivors break the portals, because sometimes if the survivors refuse to break the portals and all of your portals are all the way on the other side, it's, you know, you can't really do anything, right? So make it so that he can move his portals at free will, similar to the Hag where it just resets the last set one. That's pretty much all I would do with him, and I think it'd be quite nice. Moving on is the Oni. And Oni is a very beautiful and strong killer. Everything about the Oni is beautiful, you know. And I think people have fun playing as and against him. But there is one add-on in the game that absolutely breaks the Oni. And I think we all know what that one is. And it's Top Knot. Top Knot needs to be fixed. And there's a simple way of fixing this. Just making it so that it's 1.5 instead of double. Because this doubles your speed, you know, at the activation time. And it is absolutely crazy. All you need to do is make it so that it is 1.5 or maybe 1.2, or increase the base and then keep that at 2 if you really want it, but I don't think you need to. That's the only thing that I would change with Oni. He's pretty nice how he is though. And let's move on to our final killer, the Death Slinger, who is our most recent killer in the game. How do we fix the Death Slinger? Death Slinger is a pretty balanced killer, you know, fun to play as, very, very fun to play as indeed. But balance, you know. There's only one thing I would change: give him a little bit more range. This is something that we spoke about in the PTB that never got introduced. If you gave him 24 meters, the same as his heartbeat, it would be absolutely beautiful. Remember earlier I was telling you guys you could make some things base. This add-on right here, the one that gives you 15 per exposed for 15 meters. If you really wanted to make the Death Slinger strong, again, this is just me messing with ideas, make it so that if you are increasing the range of the gun to 24 meters, every shot over 20 meters would be automatically exposed. Just the concept, just an idea. Don't go crazy in the comments, but that's something that I would finick with and mess with, and I think it'll be pretty cool. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up one change for every killer in the game. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe if you are brand new. Let me know what you thought of my ideas and some changes you would make to the killers. I would love to hear. Remember, we are live on Twitch as well, doing our partner push day 22, so I'd love if you guys come out and show some support. As always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.